from the ministry, from the Department of Cooperatives. We've had Mr. Emmons, we've had Mr. Grimes, and so on. And this week, we have another of the field officers, Mr. Anthony Stroude. He's on with us today. And this morning, we'll be focusing for the next 20 minutes or so on the benefits of cooperatives. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you. Listeners and viewers. I'm pretty okay at this time.
For the last 3-4 weeks, we've been focusing on different elements of the cooperatives, and I think one of the things we've skillfully highlighted is that the current economic situation that we find ourselves in now, it provides it serves as the ideal catalyst to give birth to cooperatives, where individuals, for varied reasons, whether they have common interests or maybe for the purpose of pooling their resources together, they see the need to come together. We've done that. Let's take the conversation further. We've set up our bylaws. We've established everything that we need to do. Let's talk about the benefits. What are the benefits to be derived from the formation of any cooperative at all?
Well, just before I go into the specific benefits, based on what you mentioned earlier on our economic situation that we are in, not just in Grenada, but worldwide, the model that we're speaking about, this cooperative model, it's not a new thing. It's an old thing. It established in 1844 by the Rockdale Pioneer Society, right? And it's something that was born out of this kind of circumstances. So it's not a new phenomenon that will bring in the cooperative, but it's an opportunity for governments, administration, and people to utilize that model to get the most out of it, the best out of it.
And of course, one of the elements you did not say that, yes, it isn't a new model, but it is tried, tested, and we have results. There's proven.
Yes.
We very often have quite one of the great examples of cooperatives, and we don't get into the specifics, but one of these businesses operates out to the south of the island, successful as it is, and it's a perfect example of the benefits to be derived from cooperatives. And we see it around the world, the different models. So we've established the models, we know it works. We're buying in, we've bought into it. Now, Anthony, talk to us. What are the real benefits?
Well, the benefits of cooperative are twofold. They have the macro aspect of it and you have the micro aspect of it, which the macro deals with what government will want to do, policymakers will want to achieve to lower the poverty rates and so on. And then you would have the micro, which is what individuals, societies, communities need to benefit from, and that is what we're going to talk about. Well, both of them interlink. So some of the benefit, I'll start with the benefit of, the first one will deal with tackling the poverty and creating food security or job security as well. That's one of the critical benefits cooperatives offer, whereby, you can pool your resources. When you pool your resources together as individuals, and you have the support of the policymakers that will guide you into that process, you can help alleviate poverty, and you can create some job security, food security, because there are different types of cooperatives that can be found. We have the financial ones, which is a credit union, which is tested and tried and proven. And we have the non-financial ones, which deals with the productive ones and the service ones, like the fishermen. And we also have a successful one in the fishermen in the north of the island. That's the Stroude Fishermen Cooperative, and also a successful fishermen cooperative operating on the western side, which is the Guelph Fishermen Society. You have the janitorial services cooperatives, like those people who is responsible for cleaning the complex, the financial complex, the ministerial complex, and the botanical gardens.
Uh-huh.
These are cooperatives as well, and some success stories.
So we talk about job. Very often, people question the notion of job security. How does the formation of a cooperative, how does it guarantee you job security as compared to any other business establishment? Some would argue when we hit rough waters, and everybody gets wet at the same time.
Yep.
What about the cooperatives that makes it so unique that is able to absorb some of those shocks?
Job security has to do with shock absorption. So not one man feel the pain, or not one man put in the effort. It's a collective coming together to put in the effort. So where there might be some form of failure or a pain to grind, not one man get the licks. Everybody will have to get licks on the back, and that will make the licks lighter. Because if 10 lashes have to pass, no one man going to be a 10 lash, but 10 person will be a lash each, which would help to cushion the effects of that lash.
Right, so we've established one, job security. Another benefit number two.
But before I go to job security, there's some statistics. The ILO estimated that over 50 or nearly 50% of world rural agricultural produce is marketed through cooperatives. And that is a critical piece of statistics. It shows that cooperatives not only centered around the city and the fine services, but their productions, the agricultural area is critical in forming a cooperative. We move into the aspect of financing. Financing in cooperative, right? When you come together and you pool your resources together as per one individual going out to seek financing for a business venture, it helps where more than one can come together to pool that resources for financing. There are several organizations that assist with financing of cooperatives. And I would say the first one that deals with it is the financial cooperative themselves, like the credit union. You know, coming together, you have the credit union, which is a financial aspect of cooperatives, which could give you that advice, that counseling that you would need up front, help you with your business plan, so that you wouldn't just start up by divide, but when you come together as a group, as a group of people, you can have that counseling coming from the financial cooperatives, well, through the league and so on as well, which represent all cooperatives.
You made mention of initially the whole issue of job security, and job security, you said, is hinged on the principle of shock absorbance. No one person bears the full blunt of whatever economic challenge that is presented. In the setting up of the cooperatives, in many other businesses, those who have the weight is based on your capital injection. I invest, I put in 2 million, I get shares that's worth 2 million. I have a bigger injection in capital. I have a bigger say. Does that principle applies to the cooperatives, and is it that unique element of it that gives you that sort of security, that if we hit rough waters, no one person gets to dictate, well, listen, because I've invested more, I get a chance to say what happens going forward?
That's correct. No one person has more say than any other in the cooperative. The democratic control of the cooperative speaks to that. One man, one vote. The laws that guides cooperative also protect individuals from one man having so much investment than the other one.
Okay.
So it's a kind of unilateral kind of investment, right? Yes, you may find somebody having a few more dollars than an individual, but there's a protection in the law that guides that person does not, if that person decides to pull out their resources, it would not sink the cooperative, right? So, but you only still have one vote and every voice counts.
Great. And I think that's, I mean, do you get a sense while we're under the whole conversation about benefits, do you get a sense that here at home, the concept and principles of cooperatives, it is one that is openly embraced by the general public, and you've seen a growth, a diversion where people are moving more and more towards it?
Well, to be frank, it's a model that is out there, it's a model that is understood, that is a good model. There's a lot of interest in that model, but somehow there's a fracture somewhere that we are not seeing the formation of much of it. And I can't say why. I'm not sure if it's because of the policymakers are not giving the input or pushing or driving that, putting that drive among, especially among the young people, and the groups, the women groups, the men groups, and so on. But there's a lot of interest, but there's not a lot of formation that I expect to see.
I remember when I spoke with Brian, we sort of flirted with the idea, the notion, we were on that same line of conversation, that it has a lot to do with how our education system is structured, whereby it teaches us and encourages us to go to school, be successful enough, and then I go work for Mr. Tom Jones. It doesn't say to me, get the ideas, and then when we get together, we pool our resources together. It doesn't teach us that. We must work for somebody.
That's true. That's true. That's what we indoctrinated in. So now that the policymakers, the people, the powers that be, right, realize that this is how people were indoctrinated. You must come with something slightly different that will unlearn that and teach something new. You must come with some form of incentive package from government or policies that will drive businesses in that way. There's a lot of other small business that is deriving around the streets. The vendors, the people who sell the juices, the people who sell the fruits, the people who sell the corn, and all these kind of things. These are small business and they make reasonable money. They make a living.
Right.
But imagine that they would come together as corn producers or corn vendors, instead of going and buy $50 corn in St. David's, pay bus or pay transportation to go and buy $50 or $100 worth of corn to transport that. Imagine 5 persons come together and go and buy $50 worth of corn, one transportation cost. You see, the benefit is there already. So there's avenues for them to come together, even in such a business venture.
Because in the larger industries, is what they refer to as economies of scale.
Yeah.
It's referred to as, and it works. It allows, and what you've noticed too, Anthony, there are some local businesses, while they have not, well, as far as we were aware, that is, I should say, and like I want to make reference to, let's say, the Syrian community, the business around town. You always hear them make reference to where they come together. And you would notice that if you go to one and you say to him, I need a pair of shoes, and he doesn't have one, what does he do? He says, hold on to you, I will call he called one of his associates. And they seem to have a pretty good working knowledge as to what the other one has, because my understanding is that that's what they do. And while it may not fall under the structure of cooperatives, but it shows when you cooperate anyway. When you cooperate anyway, there are benefits to be derived.
My belief in that example that you gave is that I believe that that community, that
culture,
Syrian community, they practice the philosophies,
yes,
of cooperatives. They practice it, but they just, as you say, they're not involved in the structure that is established in the country, but they do the principles. They purchase, bulk purchasing, which eliminate overcosting of transportation and freight and so on. And they does that, and they share. When one is promoting a particular item, the next one know to pull it off the shelf for a while so that one can get recognition on that, and they operate like that. And it's time that our community take an example and come together and do these things.
And while we talk about the benefits, I know we're not touching we're not looking at it in a negative light, but you and I,
No.
we've seen over the years, Mr. Stroude, the growth and the expansion of their business assets around the tongue. Every other block that you walk within St. George, you've realized, but hold on, there is a Salim here, there's a Salim there, there's one here, there is one there. As you said, it is tried and tested. It is testimony to, yet as you say, to the benefits of coming together.
When you come together, it gives you that leverage. And one of the other benefits that provides out as we on that aspect of it is the expertise that comes out of it. You come together with all your expertise. 10 persons, 15 persons, yes, we all don't think alike. We're all not on the same educational level. Mm-hmm. We have different skills and talents, but we can bring all that together. One might be versed in accounts, one might be versed in administration, one might be versed in marketing. So you bring all these expertise together, and you get the benefit. You cut profit, you increase your profit margin, and you cut your expense line. And this is one of the benefits that cooperatives bring.
And it also gives you greater recognition when you have to negotiate. You're not negotiating as an individual. Let's say you have to go to government or to some other institution. If I go on my own, they say, well, this is a one-man gang. Nobody's going to take me serious. But if you say, listen, we have a cooperative, because there's a minimum of 10. Is it a minimum of 10 persons that's a cooperative?
Minimum of 10 persons.
Right.
Yeah.
So it means 100 of small farmers, 100 peddlers, 100 shoemakers, whatever vendors. We can come together, and when we asking for change, because a lot of times we want change, we want things to go our way, but we don't want to come together. Everybody wants to fight their own battle, not realizing that if we come together and go to the government and say, this is what we want, you might be surprised there is the change. The change comes sooner rather than later.
Yes, and the leverage you have from collective bargaining is crucial, is
yes.
good than individual bargaining. And what bothers me is that our small developing communities and countries are not embracing that model that can speedily develop your margin compared to the bigger worlds like Bolivia. Bolivia is big on cooperative. 1.2 million people and plus is involved in cooperative in Bolivia. Plus,
quite a telling story there. When we started the conversation, we talked about the benefits that governments can derive from it, the macro and the micro benefits. What about the whole conversation about concession, government concession for co-ops?
There are government concessions for co-ops. It's embedded in the law, in the Act, Cooperative Society Act. As a registered cooperative, you are entitled to concessions of items coming in. What I would like to see government implement is some form of facilitate or help facilitate through maybe the financial cooperatives like the credit union and maybe the development bank. The startup financing, this revolving fund, that the startup, the capital that you would need to purchase the raw materials, the machinery,
right,
that the group will need to advance. When they form that cooperative, that is what is lacking, I believe, and that is why the interest, we're not seeing much cooperatives forming while the interest is there. That aspect of it is a problem.
What about GIDC's involvement? Ever so often, only a couple of weeks ago, we had them here on, and they were talking about a special project that they were rolling out that seek to address. It didn't use the term cooperatives, but it seemed to talk about sole traders, persons wanting to get into business. What about their involvement?
Yes, I think yes, they have these facilities that they deal with small business, small enterprises, and so on, but it's not tailored. It's not tailored for the cooperative. It's tailored for you and me who wish to start up something. We do a business plan. We go as individuals. We take our individual risk. We put our individual security up. Most of the products are tailored for that kind of business. But I think that they need to tailor something that will meet the cooperative model, that will deal with the cooperatives in specific.
And that sort of takes us, while it takes us to the end of the program, it also takes us to one of the core challenge with getting cooperatives up and about, because there's always an issue of financial status. How do I get access to finance? You hear the big industries, they talk about it. More so, can you imagine the smaller ones for startup? That certainly would present, while you say yes, there is interest, it means that the conversation needs to deepen as to the virtue and benefits that can be derived. I want to give you 30 seconds. You get a chance to make your final pitch. Why cooperatives and another benefit?
What I want to say is that the cooperative model is one that is tested, and is proven to be a successful model. And based on the circumstances that the world finds itself in now, I think that's a model that we, as small islands, need to adopt. Our policymakers, I would encourage them to sit and speak to the league, have a conversation with the league, the representative of cooperatives, the credit unions, and see if you could work something out that will tailor the interests of people forming these cooperatives and giving them especially that startup capital that they can start that cooperative. Without that, it will be just an interest and not enough push to go forward.
Tried, tested, and proven, as intimated by Mr. Anthony Stroude, a field officer from the Grenada Department of Cooperatives. Yes, well, there is interest, he says.
With the league.
You work with the league.
I actually work with the
Grenada Cooperative League. Thanks for that.
Partnership with the league and the Department of Cooperatives.
Thank you very much. As he says, there's interest. However, there's a lot that needs to change that allows for a harnessing and a greater gelling of the benefits that can be derived from the league. One, we say you need to just start rethinking, refocusing, reshaping the way that we think, our perception of what success and what our future is supposed to entail. Maybe it should not be a case whereby I go to school and work for Mr. Tom Jones, but that maybe myself, Brian Grimes, Anthony Stroude, and a few other GBSS old boys should come together and decide what can we do together to better our standard of living.
I find so. We can do that.
We can do that. Thanks a lot, Anthony. Thanks a lot. Thank you again for the sharing. We're going to continue to do that. Again, folks, cooperatives, it is the way to go. It's tried, tested, and proven. We continue with the mid-morning. When we come back, we take our conversation to patient zero. And of course, the man, Mr. Christopher, he is, well, and all of a sudden his last name just left my head. Yeah, but it's always waiting in the wings to continue the conversation. Thanks a lot, Mr. Stroude. All the best to you.
All the best.
The Food Fair offers quality foods at affordable